Hello, hello. My name is Jeanette, and this is my channel, Karma Rising. As some of you may know, I am a huge fan of true crime, and I decided to start shooting some true crime videos because I have been home during this pandemic. I have 2 kids, which is so much fun, but I needed someone to talk to about this stuff. So since I'm new to this, please like this video and subscribe so that you can check out my videos in the future and give me some feedback, like your opinions of the cases, as well as what cases you might like to see, and maybe help me figure out the background, because these twinkle lights I feel like could be improved upon just a little bit. Today I'm going to be talking about the case of Diane Schuler. Some of you may be familiar with this case. It happened close to where I live, so I am familiar with the area somewhat, and I thought this would be a good place for me to start, so let's get right into it. A little background. On July 26th, 2009, mother of 2, Diane Schuler, drove the wrong direction on the Taconic State Parkway in upstate New York with 5 children in the car. She crashed into an SUV traveling the opposite direction, as well as another SUV. 8 people were killed, including Diane, her daughter, 3 nieces, and 3 men in the other SUV. How could this happen? Something must have gone terribly wrong. So first we need to answer the question, who is Diane Schuler? Outwardly, Diane Schuler was the ideal wife and mother. She was married to Daniel Schuler, and they lived in West Babylon, New York, which, if you're not familiar, is in an area of New York called Long Island, which is east of New York City. They had 2 kids, a son, Brian, who was 5 at the time of this accident, and a daughter, Erin, who was 2. Her husband, Daniel, said Diane was a perfect wife, an outstanding mother, hard worker, reliable person, trustworthy. Diane worked full-time as the director of credit, billing, and collections at Cablevision and was essentially the breadwinner of the household. She made something like $100,000 a year, and her husband, though he worked security full-time, made significantly less. She was also your typical soccer mom, with family noting that in addition to picking up the kids after work, cooking dinner, baking cookies, and playing with the kids, and then tucking them in, she would stay up late to make them scrapbooks so that they could have them in the future. So she was basically super mom. You see her on social media, someone who could do everything, and they just drive you crazy, and you don't have time to do any of this stuff. So how could this super mom make such a tragic mistake? So let's start with the timeline of events on July 26th, 2009. It's that morning. Diane Schuler had spent the whole weekend with her husband, Daniel Schuler, at Hunter Lake Campground in upstate Parksville, New York, with her 2 kids, Brian and Erin, as well as her 3 nieces, Emma, Allison, and Katie Hans, who were 8, 7, and 5. This campground was known as a place where families could come and unwind on the weekend. The website boasts, built on family values, our campground is perfect for anyone looking for a pristine atmosphere to enjoy all that nature has to offer. They woke up around 7 a.m. and started getting ready to go. First, Danny woke up, and he woke up Diane, and then she started waking the kids up, getting the kids' stuff packed, which if you've ever gotten 1 kid ready to go, let alone 5 children, let me tell you, not fun. You don't want to do it. No. So by 9:30, Diane is packed. She's got the kids packed in the van, and they're ready to roll out of the campground. She's driving her brother's 2003 Ford Windstar minivan that she had borrowed for the weekend. Her husband is driving the family pickup truck and leaves at the same time with the family dog. There are witnesses to the family leaving and being in good spirits.
Danny was parked up in front, and he had the dog, and he had the truck, and she was right behind him in the van. And the kids were just yelling. They were all strapped in their seats and yelling. What a good time they had, because they were up visiting with Aunt, Diane and so forth. So I kind of leaned and I said, oh, I hear you yelling. I said, did you have a good time? And they go, yeah, we're coming back. But, they were so excited about coming back. And that was about the last thing they said. I said to Diane, have a safe trip home.
They immediately headed to a McDonald's 9 miles away to get breakfast. This McDonald's was about 15 minutes away. Diane purchases an orange juice and iced coffee for herself. I've read some reports that the children are seen playing in the play place. It's like the place where they have all the tubes and the fun stuff, and it just smells like socks. It's not really that fun. They were there for a while, it seems. I could not find any footage from the McDonald's, but I did find this photo. At around 10:30 a.m., Diane and the kids leave McDonald's and head to the nearby Sunoco, where Diane gasses up the car and goes inside, and the clerk recalls her asking for a pain-relieving gel cap, which they didn't have. She gets in the minivan and leaves. The footage shows the minivan leaving the Sunoco at 10:58 a.m. in what some would describe as an aggressive way, basically just peeling out of the parking lot. At 11:37 a.m., a call is placed by Emma Hance, the eldest niece, to their father, Diane's brother Warren, letting him know they are running late. The nieces have rehearsal for a play that they are in that afternoon and wanted to let him know that they are en route. Warren speaks with Diane briefly and says she sounds fine. During this time period, there were multiple witnesses to a red minivan driving aggressively and erratically on Route 17, which is basically the road between the campground and the highway to get home. At 11:45, a witness reports seeing a red minivan pulled over and a woman fitting Diane's description hunched over like she was vomiting in the area of Middletown on Route 17. Remember this. That same witness reports seeing that vehicle weaving in and out of traffic a short time later. At 12:08, Jackie Hance, the mother of the three nieces, calls and speaks with Diane for under 2 minutes. Diane seemed normal at this point. They speak about tickets to the play that the nieces have the rehearsal for, and Diane speaks about, oh, give us 2 tickets, and she seems coherent in this moment, right? At 12:13, they pass through the Harriman Toll Plaza to enter Interstate 87. So they are on track to head back home. They're headed there. Nothing seems to be going wrong at this point, other than some aggressive driving. So between 12:15 and 12:45 p.m., a red minivan is seen driving erratically, straddling the lanes and honking its horn. At one point, another witness reports again seeing her at the side of the road sitting on the guardrail, appearing ill. Yet another witness reports a red minivan tailgating him and trying to pass on the shoulder. The witness pulls off at the Sloatsburg service area and the minivan follows her, but pulls into the truck area and drives over a grass median into the car area. This is when the calls from the girls begin to get concerning. At 12:55 p.m., there was a wrong number dialed from Diane's phone. At 12:58 p.m., Emma Hance reaches her father and says the famous line, "There's something wrong with Aunt Diane." She says Diane is incoherent, slurring her words and can't see, and that they are lost. Warren, Emma's father, can hear the other children crying in the background, and then the call drops. Warren immediately calls his sister's phone back. She is described as disoriented. She calls her brother by her husband Danny's name and is just overall sloppy. Emma gets back on the phone, and as Diane pulls over just past the Tappan Zee Bridge toll plaza, which is now the Mario M. Cuomo Bridge, Emma tells her father that she sees signs that say Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow, which are little towns nearby the former Tappan Zee Bridge. Diane takes the phone back, and Warren tells Diane to wait there. 4 more wrong number calls are placed from Diane's phone before it is left on the retaining wall by the side of the road where they had pulled over. At this point, Warren Hans and Danny Schuler are headed to Tarrytown to look for Diane and the kids, under the assumption that there is something medically going wrong. That was the only possible reason that Diane would be so incoherent and acting so erratically. Warren continues to try to reach Diane, but only gets her voicemail. There is no report of Diane again until after 1:30 p.m., when Diane turns right from Pleasantville Road onto the Taconic Parkway, going the wrong direction, south in the northbound lane. She is seen driving straight and with intent, causing several vehicles to swerve out of the way. She's accelerating, staring straight ahead.
It was literally as if we weren't even on the road.
Yeah.
She's coming toward us, I'm blinking my lights and beeping the horn, and she's flailing. And we drove up on the grass because otherwise we would have been hit. She never put on a brake. She never her eyes didn't even move.
It was just, I'm going where I want to go. I'm doing what I need to do. Yeah. I'm where I want to be.
And then she went around the bend onto the highway itself.
At 1:35 p.m., the minivan crashes into an SUV with 3 men inside headed to a family party. Guy Bastardi, Daniel Bastardi, and family friend Daniel Longo. These 3 men, Diane, her daughter, and her 3 nieces all perish. Diane and Danny's son Brian was the only survivor. Obviously, the crash was horrifying, and the immediate response was, how could something like this happen? How could a mother drive the wrong way on the highway with 5 children in her minivan? Did she have a stroke and lose her sight and ability to speak? The family was steadfast in their belief that she was an ideal mother and that the autopsy would solve this case. They just wanted to mourn their family member and saw Diane as an angel who could do no wrong. There must have been a reason. Well, then the toxicology report comes out. She had a blood alcohol content of 0.19 and was high on marijuana. She could have smoked as recently as 15 minutes before. This was a shocker. The family of the victims and the other vehicles started coming out to call out Diane's family for lying about her alcohol and drug use. They swore she barely ever drank and sometimes used marijuana, but very rarely. Diane had what was the equivalent of 10 shots already metabolized in her system, in addition to 6 grams of liquor in her stomach that wasn't even digested yet. Obviously, they said, she had a drinking problem and was a pothead, right? They must have known, straightforward, she was an addict. She made bad choices and messed up big time, causing the loss of 8 lives. Still, the family, Diane's husband, Danny Schuler, and especially Diane's sister-in-law, Jay Schuler, continued to stand behind the fact that something must have happened medically to have caused this crash. Diane wouldn't have just consumed this much alcohol knowingly or without being under extreme duress. One medical reason that was given was that Diane had horrible tooth pain and was terrified of the dentist. In 2005, there are records that Diane had gone to a dentist about an infected tooth, but left before having that tooth looked at, presumably in fear. This was something her family mentioned quite a bit, that Diane had a fear of not only the dentist, but also wasn't a huge fan of the doctor either. Unfortunately for the family, the autopsy didn't show any sign of infection in her teeth. There was even mention that she could potentially have a rare autoimmune disease where it turns carbs into alcohol in your stomach and processes it and makes you drunk. But that's highly, highly unlikely, and there wasn't any proof of this. I mean, very likely the people who have this for a very long time. It just doesn't present while you're driving one day. The family continues to search for a medical explanation for this tragedy. Families There was even an HBO documentary about the family's search for answers. There had been efforts to exhume Diane's body so that they could do further tests. Our hair, for example, holds a lot of information about what we've consumed in the past couple years, so like our drinking and drug use. They were hoping to find some kind of evidence that would prove that Diane didn't intentionally consume alcohol and marijuana while driving and caused this crash. Anyway, that didn't end up happening. So there is speculation that perhaps they knew that she was using a little bit more than they let on. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I have a lot of strong opinions about this case. Obviously, there is no excuse to drink and drive. And there is never any excuse to drink and drive with children in the car. I do believe there was a medical reason that Diane drank that day, but it wasn't what you may think. So if we go back to Diane's childhood, she had a lot of trauma that led to some seriously concerning behaviors. There isn't a lot of information about her childhood specifically, but it is alluded to in that documentary that when Diane was 9, her mother abandoned the family and just left. Diane's mother, Eileen, is rumored to have run off with a neighbor or a family friend, and this devastated Diane. Diane was the only daughter in a family with, I think, 4 brothers, and all of a sudden, Diane was the woman of the house. So apparently, also the caretaker of the home. She cooked, she cleaned, she did the laundry, and made sure everything was in order. Now imagine being 9 years old and taking on this role for 4 brothers and your father. She held a resentment against her mother and cut off all communication with her. Diane's brothers had a relationship with their mother, so this was specifically Diane that wanted to do this. Eileen made attempts to reach out to Diane and reestablish a relationship, and Diane just wouldn't allow it. This had a strong impact on who Diane became. Her friends note that she kept her feelings close to the vest and didn't really open up fully to people. Maybe she was afraid of being abandoned again and really letting someone in. You have to also look at the environment in which she is growing up in. She was growing up on Long Island in a town called Floral Park. So I lived in Long Island for about a year when I was 19. And this area is just suburbs and strip malls for like 100 miles. So there's a lot of pressure to keep up with the Joneses. You need to look a certain way. You need your house to look a certain way. You need to wear a certain brand. Your lawn needs to be manicured and immaculate. And this isn't the entirety of Long Island. I understand this. So cool Long Islanders out there, please don't get mad at me. I know you're out there. There is a lot of pressure to do things the right way. I think having to be the caretaker for her father, herself, and her brothers while being estranged from her mother from a young age and under this pressure to keep up with the Joneses, that can do something to some people. She struggled with her weight throughout high school and into her early adulthood. I know that a lot of people eat when they are stressed out, and that is one way they release negative energy. That could be a sign of some unresolved coping issues that can also manifest in other indulgence coping mechanisms down the line. There's not really any information about the time between kind of her young adulthood and her marriage. I would guess she was building her career and her foundation of her life. Her friends bring up that during this time, she lost more weight than she ever had and looked amazing. This could be a sign that she was shifting her coping mechanism to something else. People who have an indulgence coping mechanism tend to manifest it as overeating when we're children. And that can easily become a much, much more serious addiction if we don't deal with the psychological cause of that and just stop overeating. Disclaimer, I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything like that. So please don't take what I'm saying as like medical advice. It's not. I'm not a doctor. No. Nope. When you pair this indulgence coping mechanism with her known fear of going to the doctor, it's very likely she was self-medicating. Now, if you have never self-medicated with a legal or even an illegal substance, it is a dangerous game. Oftentimes, there are outside factors that change the effects of the medication on us, like combining it with other substances or even the weather. So it's hard to judge what the medication is really helping and how to dose yourself correctly, because so many things can change the dynamic. Also, alcohol, for instance, is a depressant. So initially, the high of being buzzed and drunk makes you happy, right? But once that levels out, you being drunk actually brings you down and makes you feel sad. That's not fun. Therapy and finding the right combination of prescribed medication along with using it the correct way is super important for some people, especially those prone to self-medicating, because it is all too common to over-medicate with illegal or even legal substances that you are not prescribed. It is also difficult because it is often something you need to hide, so you end up keeping secrets from your family, especially if it's gotten really bad. So it usually ends up with a crash and burn, like a restraining order, or even an overdose, a death, hurting others. It just can go poorly. So I'm big into repeating numbers, like when you see like 1111 or 1111, 333. So in this case, there are a lot of threes. So 3 vehicles in the accident, 3 Schulers in the accident, 3 nieces, 3 men in the other vehicle. It was 3 hours from when Diane started drinking, I believe, and when the accident happened. So I believe what happened is Diane was self-medicating that day because she had a lot of stuff going on. I think there were 3 reasons she was self-medicating. And I think there were also 3 additional non-tangible tragedies that happened that day. So let's get into those. Having been a kind of a casual addict in the past, I am not proud of this, but I have had a drink and drove, or I have done stuff and driven, which I'm not proud of. And I don't do those things anymore. But some people don't, there's not a stigma for some people with doing that. And so if you self-medicate, you might see it as no problem. Oh, well, I take a shot all the time and go drive. So what's the big deal? So now we need to ask what was leading her to self-medicate that day specifically. I think it was a combination of 3 things, as I said. She had spent the weekend with her family at the campground and likely had already been drinking, and she was known to have an affinity for marijuana, so possibly already smoked a bit as well. So number 1 reason, she self-medicated. She was hungover already. Even in the still photo of her at McDonald's, she looks miserable. At McDonald's, she gets the kids' breakfast and gets no food for herself, but gets herself an orange juice and an iced coffee. Now that doesn't sound appetizing. It also implies that she didn't have an appetite. The second tragedy happens when she not only decided to self-medicate that day, but followed through with it. She bought orange juice as a chaser likely, or as a mixer, and at some point she got the bottle of vodka out and began drinking. There was a 1.75 quart bottle of Absolute vodka found in the wreckage of the vehicle. Her husband noted that they had kept a bottle in the camper for drinking around the campfire and celebrating at camp. There was no pipe or paraphernalia noted to have been found for smoking marijuana. I personally found this interesting. So I believe that McDonald's was a smokescreen, no pun intended. Diane and the kids were at McDonald's for 45 minutes-ish. As a mom, if I'm headed home after a long weekend with 5 kids, I want to get food, eat, and get out of there. I want to roll. Diane let the kids play in the play place for quite a while. This leads me to believe that she needed a break from the kids and possibly wanted to step aside momentarily, potentially to smoke a joint, which would be pretty inconspicuous. There's no footage of Diane that I could find that shows her leaving the kids momentarily, but if she did step out, I don't think that witnesses would note it. You could easily mask that as if, oh, I'm just making a call on my phone, or something along those lines. Reason number 2, she self-medicated. She was overwhelmed with the kids. Her husband, Danny, woke up that morning, went and cleaned his boat, and left her with 5 hungry kids, taking only the dog and the luggage in his pickup truck. In the HBO documentary, Jay Schuler, his sister-in-law, is shown helping Danny with Brian after the tragedy and makes a comment that he is not engaged as a parent. At that point, he wasn't working, and she was basically doing all of the cooking and cleaning and stuff at the house. Prior to the tragedy, Danny worked second shift, which is, I think it's 3 p.m. to midnight. So he got home after Diane was already in bed. So with that, it would be hard for him to actually know what she was doing between when she got home or even after she put the kids to bed and when she went to bed. So she could have been drinking a little bit more than they thought, or, smoking a little bit more than they potentially thought. He didn't seem very involved in the day-to-day operations of the household. Perhaps they had a fight that morning about responsibility, and she was just having a hard time managing her emotions, and she turned to liquor and marijuana to self-medicate. At this point, she had a few swigs of booze and maybe smoked a joint, but she still feels shitty and decides to run to a nearby store and get some Tylenol gel caps. The store doesn't sell them, and she is clearly irritated, judging by the video. She didn't appear intoxicated, but judging by her driving, her mood was already elevated and not in a good way. They are running late, and Emma, the oldest girl, probably realizes this. She's starting to panic. Calling her dad initially shows concern that she needed to notify him that they were on their way but running late. Diane is dealing with 5 kids, yelling and complaining in the back, and decides another swig would be fine. She can't handle this anymore. It's likely not the first time she's driven buzzed. Reason number 3 she self-medicated: traffic. It's Sunday in rural upstate New York. People are headed to church. People are leaving church. People are going to the lake for the day. People are going to the park to hike. No rush. Easygoing Sunday in the Catskills. Now, if there's one thing I know about Long Island, it is that people can tend to be more aggressive in general. Just louder and more opinionated and not afraid to stand up for themselves. But this can also translate to aggressive driving, which is not always a good thing. Long Island drivers can sometimes be a little erratic and can be prone to road rage due to the nature of the roads on Long Island. There's just a bazillion people in a really small, congested area, so it can be frustrating to the point of infuriation. She was originally driving erratically because she was late. The traffic was slow going and the kids are getting fussy. She was pissed. This is when most soccer moms would take a Xanax, but not Diane. Diane has no prescription for Xanax or prescription for Klonopin because she's afraid of the doctor. But what does she have? Marijuana. She is driving her brother's minivan and knows she can't smoke pot in there because he will know. He'll smell it. I have an unpopular opinion. I don't think she pulled over and was hunched over throwing up. I think she pulled over to smoke a joint. She was running behind and frantic and thought that it would calm her down. Unfortunately, the combination of THC and alcohol, which is THC is the active ingredient in marijuana, it can cause a hallucinatory effect. So in addition to the alcohol, which takes quite a while to metabolize, the liquor just goes down so quickly. So she's starting to lose grip on any last bit of coherency that she still has. And there's still more alcohol in her stomach that hasn't even been digested. So she is not in a good place. At this point, the kids are concerned, and she is still pissed, and now she is blackout drunk. She makes a series of unreasonable maneuvers with the tailgating and stupid driving. And now the kids aren't just worried, they are scared. That's when Emma makes the call. There's something wrong with Aunt Diane. This is the third tragedy that day. Diane didn't just stop. She knew she was in trouble. She knew Warren was going to freak out, her brother. She knew he was going to call the police. She would definitely go to jail for the day and likely go to prison. She would probably lose her kids. She's processing this all quickly and in a blackout drunk state. At this point, she can't process the consequences of running and the danger in that. She was reacting out of a primal fight or flight. I don't know if she had a destination. Maybe she was trying to run north to buy some time. Personally, I think that she was trying to take the Taconic Parkway south to Long Island to avoid detection and buy time. When I would drive to Long Island, I would take this route sometimes. It has less traffic and it's a reasonable alternate route that wouldn't have aroused too much suspicion. This area is also very confusing. So I have heard the theory that she was on a suicide mission, but I don't personally believe this. The roads are very confusing and they're labeled clearly, but it's the turns are just aren't very logical. So basically, the Jesus take the wheel theory is that she knew she was in trouble and decided to play chicken on the highway because she was just so gone. She didn't care what happened. That she was hopeless and knew she was out of options. So she turned the wrong way onto that parkway in a bid to murder all the children in her family, as well as herself. I don't think so. I think that she was really just trying to save herself and hide her secret for one more day. I was in high school. A girl who was in my class ended up driving the wrong way on a local highway, and unfortunately, this led to an accident and she passed. I won't say her name out of respect for the family, but it was very tragic. She was a sweet girl and not the person you would expect to end up in this situation. Sometimes good people just make horrible choices, and in some cases that can change your entire life and the life of a whole bunch of other people. This crash was found to be a homicide. Multiple parties sued each other. The Bastardi family, the family of two of the men who were in the SUV that were killed, sued Diane's estate, as well as Warren Hance, seeking unspecified damages. Apparently, they had to sue him because he owned the car, the vehicle, but I don't know that law, so. Jackie Hance, the mother of the three nieces, sued Daniel Schuler, Diane's husband, for terror, fear of impending death, extreme horror, fright, and mental anguish that her daughters experienced. Daniel Schuler sued Warren Hance as the owner of the minivan and the state of New York for road conditions. So not only was the family destroyed by this tragedy, but then further decimated by litigation. One positive thing that came from this case, the New York State governor at the time proposed the Child Passenger Protection Act, which made it a felony to drive intoxicated with a minor in the car. This proposal was signed into law on November 18, 2009. Jackie and Warren Hance formed the Hance Family Foundation, whose focus is to honor the lives of their daughters who died in this tragedy by ensuring healthy, happy, and safe children through innovative self-esteem educational programming. Their goal with the foundation is to promote their program, Beautiful Me, which is a self-esteem program designed to help girls have a positive self-image, which is something a lot of young girls struggle with. In October 2011, Jackie Hance gave birth to a daughter, Casey Rose Hance. Though this in no way fills the gap in her heart, I'm sure that it is a new ray of sunshine which helps them see the light through this darkness. I pray for everyone involved in this case, including all the victims and their families of the victims. No matter how you slice this is just an utter tragedy. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about this case since it's so controversial, and whether you think that Diane had a medical emergency or if you think that she intentionally drank alcohol and smoked, or what your opinion is. And also, if you have any feedback for me about the video, I'm open to reading what you have to say. If there are any cases you would like to see me cover, please let me know. Thank you for watching and have a great day.